like we said, slowly working his way through the field, getting comfortable in that race car. But yeah, back to Alex. I like how Paul said he needs no note from home to be aggressive. That's sort of Alex's trademark. He is a fiery young man, and he's he's really reveling in his new situation on the R Sports team. So fantastic to see him running back up front. Right now, he just seems to be about a 2/10 a lap off our leader as we look at a replay now of Oriol Servia making that move on the number 22 pay-by-touch car. Very clean, textbook, down the inside. Of course, you can't defend again in Champ Car World Series, so great move by Oriol Servia, and he's slowly picking his way up through the field.
Certainly was. He's got past Christian Gomedy there, and Gomedy did a nice job, I thought, to get him under the top 10. He outpaced his PKV Racing teammate Neil Jani in qualifying, and now those two are running in nose-to-tail formation. There goes Gomedy. There was Jani right behind him. The yellow car, the Red Bull car there of Neil Jani, and they're currently holding down 13th and 14th positions. But of course, both of those two have made an early pit stop along with Oriol Servia. Also, Dan Clark was on pit lane, and Alex Figge, we saw with damage to that car as well. So there is Oriol. He's doing a nice job. He stepped in to the fray this weekend after PT's injury. 112 starts he's got to his name in the Champ Cars prior to this weekend. Oriol Servia, second only in this field for Alex Tagliani. PT, of course, he done 250th race in the Champ Cars at Las Vegas. Unfortunately, we have to wait a while for the 251st. So Tagliani is the most experienced driver in the field. Won 118 starts prior to this race under his belt. Just the one win, of course, and that came after in his 85th Champ Car start. That was at Road America, driving for Paul Gentilozzi and the Rocket Sports team. That was back in 2004. He had to wait 34 races as Tagliani to get back into victory lane. Maybe he can do it this afternoon. Maybe he can. I mean, he certainly has a pace to be up front. Not quite matching Bourdais at this point, but there's still a lot of racing to go. There's an hour and 14 minutes left on the clock here in Long Beach. Who knows what could happen? Graham Rahall's looking a bit racing now, isn't he? I think he perhaps feels he's a little bit quicker than those two Team Australia cars. He has seemed to catch up to the gearbox at number 15 down to constantly in code, as you said. That's what Derek Walker told me this morning. He said the two cautions, what they needed was two cautions for at least 5 laps to be able to make it a 2-stop race. You guys were talking about Oriol Servia a minute ago. He said, you know, I learned when I did the Newman-Haas Lanigan thing. He said, when I got into a fast car, it should be fast. So I should be fast. I should be equal to what the car can do. So it shouldn't be about me. It should be about what the car is able to do, not what I'm able to do. Another good point there. Here is this battle for second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh places. Tagliani, Power, Pagenaud, Rahal, Dornbusch, and Justin Wilson are in seventh place, but it's still Sebastian Bourdais well out in front. It's still Will Power has set the fastest lap of the race thus far, a 1 minute 10.026. That compares to Sebastian Bourdais' pole time of 107.5, so 2.5 seconds slower. But again, you know, they're looking after the cars in the early stages and trying to make sure they don't use too much fuel. Saving a bit of fuel, and on top of that, the cars are very heavy. We're in qualifying, you run them quite light. They'll be on full tanks right now, just, you know, minus the however many laps, the 21 laps that we've done thus far. Again, on board with Graham Rahal. Like you said, he's caught up to these two Team Australia cars. His lap times are a tiny bit quicker right now. They were a bit closer on that last lap, but all the leaders seem to be on the red sidewall Bridgestone tires, so that kind of takes that element out of the equation. They'll all be pitting and putting the black sidewall tires on when they get out or when they come in for their first stops, but it's kind of early in the race to take too many risks. We'll see what Graham can do with this situation. Yeah, you're right, and you know, it's there is a long way to go, but we've got 21 laps in the books there, so probably about 2/3 of the way through their first fuel stint. I think we can expect to see the leaders onto pit lane maybe somewhere between lap 28 and lap 30 with those couple of laps of caution we've had already. Generally, you can do maybe 27, 28, 29 laps, maybe a couple more than that, 31, maybe 32 if they manage to save a good bit of fuel. And then after that, I think they'll be able to go pretty much flat out to the end of the race. But certainly this man, he hasn't used any of his culture with power to pass yet. Sebastian Bourdais have 60 seconds worth to use in this race. Sebastian's used absolutely 0 of it. And he's also just done his best lap of the race, a 1 minute 10.040 compared to Power's 1 minute 10.026. And still Bourdais is stretching out that lead over Alex Tagliani in second place. So about still a bit over 5 seconds now, and Sebastian Bourdais out in front here in Long Beach. getting closer and closer to the first round of pit stops, and Sebastian Bourdais, he'll have been saving fuel as much as he could in the early stages, and now perhaps he's got a comfortable lead already, and knowing Sebastian, he's going to push a little bit harder now these last 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 laps before coming into the pit lane, just to give himself more of a margin, and then he can make that first pit stop and have really no pressure on the crew.
It's shocking that he's saving fuel and is still this much quicker than everybody. I mean, his pace right now is about half a second a lap faster, and he's just on the fastest lap of the race at a 1:09.9. So you're very right, Jeremy. He's now put the hammer down. He's hit his fuel numbers. The team has told him, you've saved all you need to save. It's probably going to be 3-4 laps before they pit for the first time. So all he needs to do now is build that gap up, put the hammer down, and show everybody just how dominant this car is right now.
And that call on the radio is exactly what he wanted, was it? No driver likes to be out there trying to save fuel. They just want to go as fast as they can and just show their superiority. We've seen it so often from Sebastian Bourdais. 23 wins, 26 poles now in just 61 starts. It's an incredible record he has.
It's shocking, really. I mean, this guy truly is a champion among champions, and he's now 3-time consecutive champion of the Champ Car World Series, going for 4 in a row, be the first man and only man in history to have done that. Looks like he ran a little bit wide there coming out of turn 9. You can definitely see that he is pushing this Newman Haas Lanigan racing car. Look how much he's got to turn that steering wheel to get these Champ cars around that hairpin. It is not an easy thing to do, despite the corner only being 27 miles an hour.
Yeah, it is amazing. It's certainly one of the slowest corners on the entire Champ Car season schedule, but he makes it look easy. I was watching yesterday and right now looking out the window occasionally when I do. He carries so much speed through turn 10 and then turns it into that hairpin with, I'd say, it's noticeably quicker. It's probably only a mile an hour more perhaps than the other guys, but it's very, very smooth and very, very effective and very, very fast.
He certainly has the technique down. Of course, he's won here in the past. Last year, dominated in a very similar fashion to what he's doing right now. Of course, he was helped out by the fact that 4 of the front runners were eliminated in that first corner melee. As we look now at Will Power running in the 3rd position. Will obviously won the first race in Vegas, so very strong car this year, and he's in the right mindset to challenge Sebastian for the championship. And if things finish as they were, he would still be the championship leader, because Sebastian did not finish the first race. So Will's still looking good. He's got to think points, but he also wants to get as high up in this order as he can. As we're on board one more time with Graham Rahal through 10, and just watch his hands through this hairpin. So you can see, grabs the bottom of the wheel all the way down, almost a full rotation in that steering wheel. Then of course he's got to get his hands back on it in time to grab those gears as he goes up. 750 horsepower through this Cosworth XFE going through that 7-gear box, Jeremy.
That's exactly right. I mean, that's the point there. You've got feeding 750 horsepower through the road, and it comes on pretty strong, doesn't it? I mean, you turn that, you've got that steering wheel cranked all the way over, you're feeding the throttle in, and the car just wants to snap sideways on you unless you have to be really in tune with everything at that point on the racetrack. No relaxation whatsoever there.
Yeah, it's shocking how a corner so slow can catch people off so easily, and Graham Rahal doing a very fantastic job right now. He's definitely keeping those Team Australia cars in sight. Oh, a little bit of rear lockup. He runs wide there. He should be okay. He's certainly going to lose a little bit of time, probably half a second, maybe 7 tenths. And look, we see an attempt for a pass. Robert Dornbos smelling blood.
He was indeed. He tore his opportunity there, but not quite close enough to take advantage was Robert Dornbos. He's doing well in his early stages, as Robert, as I said, he struggled just massively on Friday. Both he and his teammate Dan Clark right down to the bottom end of the charts, but now Dornbos is one of the quickest cars out there.
And he is close now. He's certainly got a sniff of Rahal. He's going to try and get a good power down. Rahal too strong off that hairpin. It's not going to look like he's got a chance on this particular lap.
Well, the one thing Robert Dornbos has been struggling with the most here in Champ Car is fuel conservation. And in fact, in yesterday's qualifying session, he ran out of fuel and had to sit and watch more than half the session. Good news for him was his 6th starting position held up all the way through that session that he earned earlier in the day.
Yeah, it was a great effort by Robert in that session. Very likeable young man. He's here with his manager, actually, also sort of overseer, mentor, if you like, Christian Geisdorfer, which is a name that some of you might be familiar. Christian Geisdorfer was the co-driver, navigator, co-driver for the World Rally Champion Walter Roll back quite a few years ago, late 70s, early 80s. It's great to see Christian here in the paddock this weekend. Of course, the former driver Walter Roll, he won here on the streets of Long Beach in a Trans Am car back in the early 80s as well. As we look back at Justin Wilson, the CCWS car of the R Sport team, the red and white colours there, a bit of orange in that car as well. But I'm talking about red and orange, it's all about this man, isn't it? Sebastian Bourdais, another fastest lap last time around, 1 minute 9.736, getting quicker and quicker. And again, about half a second quicker than anybody else on that lap. The other guys, no one else has got below 1 minute 10 seconds. A couple have got fairly close. Bill Stevens with Craig Hampson, the race engineer for Sebastian Bourdais.
Down here with Craig Hampson, crew chief for Sebastian Bourdais. The chess game has begun with fuel management. How are you guys going to play it today?
Well, right now we're actually just kind of cruising. He's making outstanding mileage. We're a few laps away from our first pit stop, but kind of a walk in the park so far. I'm sure it'll get exciting a little later on, but good mileage, car's good, we're pretty happy.
If it stays green like this, 2 pit stops?
Absolutely.
So Newman House Racing just had a tremendous amount of success here on the streets of Long Beach. Going back to the very beginning of this race, Mario Andretti, he raced here in Formula 1, and when the Champ cars came here in 1984, it was Mario for Newman House Racing who came out on top of the pack. And he won also in 1985 and 1987 did Mario Andretti. So he's had just a tremendous amount of success here. Sebastian Bourdais has won the last 2 years as well. And Cristiano De Mara, they won 7 championships in all, have Newman House Racing, as you can see there on that graphic. But enormous success here as well.
Giving the orders to both Will Power and Simone Pagenaud. You can go as hard as you want now. Fuel is not a problem. 3 more laps until these guys pit. So in theory, we should see some of the top 4 cars pit all at the same time.
There is Sebastian Bourdais, and we're expecting pit stops very, very quickly. Actually, I think Catherine Legg perhaps just pulled onto pit lane. She is the first of the drivers onto pit lane for a sort of scheduled stop here after 28 laps. And she was running in 13th place when she came in. And there are this is again this battle for 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th. Alex Tagliani, and then Will Power and Simon Pagenaud, and Graham Rahal right in behind him as well.
Now, if these cars all pit together, it's going to be battle of the pit stops.
I just spoke with Paul Tracy's mother, who is still here, and she let me know that Paul is back at home in Las Vegas. He is resting comfortably, and that he woke up this morning and didn't even feel the need to take any of his painkillers. So who knows? We may see him back a lot sooner than expected.
That was certainly great news. Vivian Tracy, she's just a wonderful character in her own right. She comes to most of the races, and Robert Dornbos is preparing to make a pit stop. There is Alex Tagliani. Those similar colours in that LXN2 car of the R Sports team. Alex Tagliani's got himself up from 4th on the grid into 2nd place. And we're getting ready now for the leaders to come onto pit lane, I'm sure with another lap or 2, but 29 laps complete. Now that is Robert Dornbos, who pulled out of 6th place onto pit lane. Scheduled service for the Minardi Team USA guys. Look, a little bit of a long stop there. Most of the guys, as you remember last year, there was some problems with the refueling systems on these cars. I think most of those have been stalled, and I think we hear from the pit lane that Robert actually stalled the car. They had to refire it at the back end. Marty Snyder is in the pit lane waiting for our race leaders, but watching out of the booth, and there goes Sebastian Bourdais. Does not come in this time. He's actually coming up to lap Catherine Legg as he goes down Shoreline Drive, and behind the battle for 2nd place comes out of the pit lane. And anybody peeling in here? No, yes there is. 2 guys come onto pit lane. Here is Simon Pagenaud and Graham Rahal, the 4th and 5th place cars onto pit lane for their first scheduled stop down the pit lane.
Team Australia pitting together, guys. They will come down pit road, and Rob Edwards reminded them to take things as slowly as they could and be patient here on pit road. Actually coming first will be Simone Pagenaud to pit road. They will get all the fuel in. He wanted no changes to the chassis. Here's what you were talking about, Jan. Being patient, waiting for the fuel to fill up, get some full 4 new tires to get off pit road.
Well, that was Marty, who was actually in the Team Australia pit there for Simon Pagenaud. Well, we were on board with Graham Rahal, so quite synced up there. But as you can see, a good stop for Newman House Racing and Graham Rahal. That, of course, is his first official pit stop in Champ Car competition. He's made a few in sports cars. He's done the Daytona 24 hours and the 12 hours of Sebring, has young Graham Rahal. But that was his first Champ Car pit stop, and it looked like a pretty good one, James, as we watch out there to see whether Sebastian Bourdais pulls in this time. And I don't think he did he?
He does not. He's caught a bit of traffic, but I think it's Matt Halliday's let him go by. very good sport there. He really can't get held up. That's an important part of the race for Sebastian, although with the lead he had, it's not as crucial. So very good start for the Newman-Haas-Lanigan guys, but still not quite as good as the Walker guys. Was not able to get him out in front of Simone Pagenaud, and I think might have actually managed to gain a bit of time. Here's Tagliani in the pits.
And a big change.